CILU is concerned about the long-term risks associated with an approval for the enclave development due to inconsistencies with Homedale's master plan, non-compliance with Homedale's existing zoning ordinances, negative impacts from increased impervious surfaces, massive movement of soil, and increased downstream flooding. The approval of a use variance tonight could establish a precedent for future use variances and the incentive to introduce sewers into a planning area 5, which is considered to be the most environmentally sensitive land by the state of New Jersey. For the following reasons, CILU urges the board to deny this zoning variance. First, the proposed enclave development will increase impervious surfaces and stormwater runoff, which will undoubtedly cause more severe flooding. This land is at the headwaters of the Wakeake-Mahora stream system, a system which already has contributed to continuous and increasing flooding in the Mill Road and Palmer Road areas of Homedale. Current flooding downstream is already a crisis. As the owner of 280 Middle Road testified, the Wakeake-Mahora stream on his property is 10 feet wide and is totally clogged. His property is increasingly compromised by flooding. Homedale has received similar flooding complaints from Palmer Square, the Orchards, and Fox Chase developments. Homedale has recently allocated over $350,000 to study stormwater management throughout the town and will undoubtedly spend more to mitigate flooding downstream. It makes no sense for the board to approve a development that will exacerbate a problem that the town is spending a large amount of money to correct. Moreover, the impervious coverage proposed by the applicant is 21.94%, while the maximum allowed is only 15%. The applicant's analysis of proposed coverage does not include internal roadways as impervious. These areas are claimed as pervious because the applicant is using pervious pavers. But the pavers will eventually degrade with constant daily vehicle movements of laundry, food, and refuse to and from the buildings, and subsequently will become impervious areas, thereby making the 21.94% analysis incorrect. In addition, the development requires significant resculpting of the site. The resulting massive soil movement and compaction of the soil will impair the natural groundwater recharge and exacerbate stormwater runoff and flooding. This small version of a mountaintop removal of 22,000 cubic yards of cut and fill to level the top of the hill will rearrange a 12.6 acre area of disturbance of the total 18.55 acres, resculpting approximately 2/3 of the property. The new green DEP stormwater rules only require stormwater runoff to be decreased by 20% of the current farm runoff. That runoff is calculated according to New Jersey DEP rules using 1999 precipitation levels. According to a New Jersey DEP study, by 2020, New Jersey had already experienced 1/3 of the anticipated precipitation increase for the entire century. Though the development is designed to accommodate the remaining 80% of what is calculated to be currently running off the property, the design is not sufficient to handle all stormwater that will be generated with ever-increasing storms. While the applicant is not required to anticipate DEP's prediction of ever-increasing storms over the next 20 to 30 years, we all know they will happen. Climate change is inevitable. Last year, in a 24-hour period, Hurricane Ida dropped more than 9 inches on northern New Jersey, in some places at a rate of 2 to 3 inches per hour. Contrary to the new green stormwater regulations, the applicant's infiltration basins, rain gardens, are located at the edge of the site rather than distributed throughout the property every 2.5 acres. In a heavy storm event, CILU maintains that water will bypass the structural components of the stormwater system and run through designed and constructed spillways in sheet flow to Van Schoik culverts. This will dump the stormwater directly into Mahoris Brook, thereby causing flooding, eroding steep slopes, and depositing pollutants. Our second objection to the approval of the use variance is that the granting of a variance that is inconsistent with our master plan and zoning ordinances will set a precedent to disregard the standards to protect the environment. Every exemption of our zoning ordinances and master plan facilitates further land use degradation and negative consequences. Sewering in an unsewered area will set a precedent for future high-density development. What happened at Bell Works should be a reminder of what could happen in the future. The exemption granted to allow one sewer pipe to process Bell Labs clean room chemicals now supports 225 residences on land that was originally set aside as permanent open space to compensate for the intense use of the 6-story, 2 million square foot building. The R40B zone that applies to Potter's Farm was designed to handle single-family housing in an environmentally sensitive area. If these 18 acres were a cluster development of 7 single-family homes using septics with 15% maximum impervious coverage, as allowed now in the R40B zone, the wastewater produced would not be discharged to the Atlantic Ocean, but instead serve to recharge the groundwater. Note, the average 5,000 square foot footprint of each of the 15 proposed center buildings is more than twice the footprint of a large home-built home. The excessive footprint of the proposed enclave buildings and the concentrated impervious coverage will contribute to the loss of natural groundwater recharge and downstream flooding. While the financial feasibility of the applicant's project is not CILU's concern, if the project were to fail financially, which is certainly a possibility during times of economic uncertainty, Homedale would be left with the sewered 18 acres at the intersection of exit 114 of the Garden State, which would accommodate potentially unlimited development. There is a reasonable expectation from neighbors that Homedale's zoning would be immutable. CILU maintains that the imperiled Waycake-Mahoris watershed must be protected with a vote that recognizes the environmental implications. Other sites exist in Homedale that are more suitable for this development, which was originally designed for urban areas in the Netherlands. These other sites have services already zoned for this use, such as Route 35H zone, and would not require variances. In sum, CILU urges the zoning board to deny the current application in order to protect the imperiled Waycake-Mahoris watershed and adhere to the vision of Homedale's master plan. Thank you for letting me say it.
Second? No, right. No rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
It's just comment.
Yeah.